Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, and Gould. All household names to have one thing in common. They became huge economic powers as a result of the Gilded Age.
The Gilded Age took place in the late 19th century from about 1870 to 1900. The Gilded Age was propelled by urbanization, industrialization, and immigration. This time period got its name from famous author Mark Twain's 1873 novel, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, which was a satirical novel that portrayed the era of deep underlying social problems being masked by a thin layer of gold. The gold represented the extreme wealth and success of many business people of this era.
So the Gilded Age is an amazing time in American history where, as the great Mark Twain said, it was covered in a thin layer of gold, but deeper there were problems in America that needed to be addressed. The main problems of the Gilded Age were immigration, industrialization, corruption in government, and the area where all of those problems could be located were cities. So the Progressive Era came out of the Gilded Age as a way to fix those problems, and really progressives focused their attention on the cities, knowing that they could fix the problem of immigration and industrialization, try to clean up the corruption in city politics. But as they learned very quickly, the problems of the Gilded Age were much more widespread than just in cities, and so they really had to tackle them in other areas. One of the other problems of this time was the disparity between rich and poor. You had incredible amounts of wealth that were being made on Wall Street in the early days of Wall Street after Reconstruction ended, and there were plenty of immigrants who were at the other end of that spectrum, out of work, crime, violence, and just horrible conditions in cities. So it was really a time where America was heading in two directions, and the progressives tried to kind of weave those two directions back together and allow everybody to have a slice of the American dream.
There was also political unrest during this time period. Unions campaigned for the abolition of child labor, and those a part of the women's suffrage, known as suffragettes, fought for the right to vote. This later shifted into the Progressive Era. With the growth of business came intense competition, resulting in lower prices, better products, and an overall better standard of living. With fierce competition comes immensely prosperous winners, those of who in this case became the major economic powers of the time, who are so successful they are still talked about today. A great example is John D. Rockefeller. He is to this day considered to be one of the wealthiest men on earth. He started the Standard Oil Company in 1870, which became such a major power it controlled 90% of the United States pipelines.
With all of this economic success occurring in the United States at this time, it is easy to see its appeal to foreigners, thus evolving into a boom of immigration.
Another new element of the political landscape was the Populist Party.
Well, the Gilded Age was a time with great class disparity. That is, the wealthy were getting extremely wealthy because of the industrialization of America, and the poor, or the common man, was becoming poorer and poorer because industrial jobs just didn't pay a whole lot of money. This led to the establishment of a new political party called the Populist Party. One of the things the populists wanted to do was change the way people were taxed in America. From the very beginning of America, you probably remember when you studied the American Revolution, there were tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on imports, and by the 1890s, during the Gilded Age, tariffs were up to 57%, which means if you're buying something, you're probably paying at least 57, but 55% more for a product than it would actually have cost, which hurts if you're a person who makes an average wage. The average wage in America amounted to, I think, something like $300 a year. At the same time, someone like Andrew Carnegie, a robber baron, was making $25 million a year.
The United States had two extremes living within its boundaries. Those so poor that they lived with many people in a cramped space, no light, and extremely unsanitary condition, and those with extreme wealth like Cornelius Vanderbilt. The affluent families of the Gilded Age had large, lavish mansions. Today, many of these estates are toured by anyone interested in the intricate architecture and ostentatious decorations.
Although this inequality is quite depressing and in no ways fair, you, as a Glenelg Country School student, benefit from it immensely. In fact, you would not be sitting where you are today if it was not for one of the Gilded Age's major powers, Jay Gould.
Even though many disagreed with his ways, Gould still managed to grow stronger and stronger in the railroad business. After the Panic of 1873, a financial crisis that resulted in a depression in North America and Europe after the demonetization of silver, Jay Gould took over the Union Pacific Railroad. Also known as the UP, this railroad's network is the largest in the country and is also one of the world's largest transportation companies.
But let's get some background information on the Goulds. Jason, otherwise known as Jay Gould, was born on May 27, 1836. He was a leading American railroad developer and speculator, but he was also known as one of the ruthless robber barons of the Gilded Age. His successes in the railroad industry made him out to be one of the richest men of this era.
Jay Gould worked among famous tycoons like John D. Rockefeller, the namesake of the Rockefeller Center in New York City, Andrew Carnegie and Andrew Mellon, like Carnegie Mellon University, and Leland Stanford, who founded Stanford University. Now we recognize Jay Gould as the great-grandfather of Kingdon Gould Jr., the founder of Glenelg Country School, who left an extensive legacy of his own. All in all, the Gilded Age was a very notable time in U.S. history, and we have Jay Gould to thank because without passing his success down generation to generation to his great-grandson Kingdon Gould, there would be no Glenelg Country School here today.